Under the icy deep sea near the Arctic Circle, a silent world is being completely transformed by a slow yet determined force. In the dark abyss that is difficult for sunlight to reach, huge contours move under the dim bioluminescence embellishment. They were dressed in crimson armor, stretching their long and articulated feet. Like a disciplined oceanic armored army from ancient times, conducting a silent expedition. This is the emperor crab, a contradictory combination of ultimate deliciousness, astonishing value, and destructive ecological impact. A Pandora's box opened by humans themselves, but may never be fully controlled. In the showcase of the world's top seafood markets. Large, carefully processed emperor crabs shimmer with a tempting ruby-like luster. Their value is comparable to a luxurious French feast, reaching hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Regarded as the red gold of the ocean by foodies and businessmen alike. This complex industrial chain from the cold deep sea to the luxurious dining tables around the world. Creating billions of dollars in astonishing wealth every year. Completely changed the fate of countless people from remote towns in the Arctic Circle to international metropolises. However, at the source of this glamorous wealth chain, a silent yet profound ecological crisis is silently unfolding on the vast seabed. These clumsy yet tempting crustaceans on the dining table are now on a massive scale of millions. Starting from their native habitats, along complex continental shelves and trenches. Launched a decades-long biological expedition into unfamiliar waters. Wherever they pass, the once lush and diverse underwater world quietly deserts. The indigenous biological community that has undergone millions of years of evolution is facing a catastrophic disaster. Scientists anxiously refer to it as a silent migration. A ticking, immeasurable power ecological bomb. To deeply understand the invasion of the king crab and its global impact, we must first return to their ancient homeland located in the North Pacific, and examine the human decision that changed everything. The ancient inhabitants of the North Pacific, the perfect deep-sea hunter shaped by evolution. The king crab is not a single species, but a collective term that includes multiple species. The most famous and economically valuable among them is undoubtedly the red emperor crab. They are naturally distributed in the cold North Pacific, forming a region starting from the Alaska Peninsula, passing through the winding island chain of the Aleutian Islands, all the way to the vast habitat areas of the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia and the northern waters of Japan. These giant clawed crabs are perfect adapters to the harsh environment of the deep sea and are masterpieces of evolutionary biology. They typically inhabit sandy, muddy, or rocky seabeds at depths of 100 to 400 meters, or even deeper up to 600 meters. The water temperature remains at a staggering 3 to 5 degrees Celsius throughout the year. In this low-temperature environment close to freezing point, their metabolism becomes abnormally slow. This not only gives them firm and plump meat, but also greatly extends their lifespan, which can last up to 20 to 30 years. Slow growth allows them enough time to accumulate biomass, and their weight can grow to over 10 kilograms. Leg span easily exceeds 1.8 meters, becoming a true, deep-sea giant. After millions of years of coevolution, they have formed a delicate and stable dynamic balance with the ecosystem of the North Pacific, including their predators, prey, and competitors. In this system, they are an important part of the food web, but they are not dominant destructive forces. Its population size is naturally regulated by cod, large octopuses, and even marine mammals. Bold experiments and unintentional mistakes, ecological intervention in geopolitics. The major turning point in the story of Emperor Crab occurred in the 1960s. The Cold War era full of ideological confrontation and the heroic spirit of man can conquer nature. At that time, the Soviet Union was influenced by the trend of planned transformation of nature to serve the national economy and strategic interests. Conducted a series of ambitious biological enrichment experiments. Its core goal is clear and utilitarian, by artificially introducing species with high economic value into new, considered underutilized, water bodies. To enhance the natural productivity of the ocean and provide more sources of animal protein for the rapidly growing population. At the same time, establishing a strong fishery economy in newly developed areas demonstrates the superiority of socialist scientific planning. Between approximately 1961 and 1969, Soviet research vessels have repeatedly captured thousands of sexually mature adult red emperor crabs from places of origin such as the Sea of Okhotsk. These precious seeds were carefully transported, sailed for a long time, and finally released into the distant Barents Sea. This is a cold water area located in northern Norway and Russia, bathed in the northern lights. The choice of Barents Sea as a new home was based on seemingly reasonable scientific judgments at the time. Its cold water temperature, rich nutrients, and similar origin theoretically make it suitable for the survival of king crabs. More importantly, the sea area lacked similar large and efficient benthic predators at that time. Regarded as a potential, undeveloped ocean pasture, a dark fishing continent waiting to be illuminated. The original intention of this action is a strategic plan full of anthropocentrism. However, the complexity, interconnectedness, and fragility of natural ecosystems far exceeded the cognitive scope of mainstream scientific models at that time. Scientists may have seriously underestimated the king crab as a top predator. The terrifying expansion force that will erupt in the new environment without effective natural enemy constraints, its strong reproductive potential, and the potential competitive exclusion of local species. This benevolent experiment aims to enrich the ocean and benefit society. Accidentally opening the Pandora's box of ecology, it triggered a global ecological and economic storm that continues to this day. The king crab released into the unfamiliar waters of the Barents Sea did not live up to the expectations of its human guide. Stay in a limited area and reproduce peacefully. They almost immediately demonstrated their terrifying potential as invasive species and quickly adapted to the new environment. And launched an ecological expedition that the world had never expected in terms of scale and speed. After the initial adaptation period, the population of king crabs rapidly established in the Barents Sea and exhibited a typical exponential growth curve of invasive species. Due to the lack of native large crabs, bottom-dwelling fish or marine mammals with sufficient predation ability to effectively control their numbers, their population growth has lost key negative feedback mechanisms. They began to move along the continental shelf at a steady speed of tens of kilometers per year, like a slow-moving red tide, sweeping westward and southward. The main population steadfastly advances westward, utilizing ocean currents and their own mobility. Quickly covered the entire southwestern shelf of the Barents Sea. The key nodes appeared in the early 1990s, successfully reaching and crossing the Finnmark coast in northern Norway. Afterwards, they continued southward along the winding coastline of Norway, unstoppable. Nowadays, its stable population has reached at least the Tr-Ondelag region in central Norway. The distance from its initial release point has exceeded 1,000 kilometers. Scientists are nervously using trawl surveys, genetic markers, and underwater robots. Pay close attention to whether their forward troops will continue to move south and break through the Skagerrak Strait, entering the North Sea with richer species and denser fisheries, and even exploring warmer Atlantic waters. Water temperature is widely regarded as the main limiting factor for its further expansion. But the warming of seawater caused by global warming may be removing this last natural barrier for them. In just over 40 years, this is just a moment in the history of ecological evolution. The population of king crabs in the Barents Sea and its western waters has increased from a few thousand released initially. Explosive growth to an astonishing scale estimated to exceed 20 million. This has been described by ecologists as a silent migration or slow tsunami with great concern. It doesn't have the earth-shattering force of a sea storm, but it's below sea level. By stepping on the seabed with countless claws, it coldly and thoroughly reshapes the topography and ecological landscape of the seabed. The reason why the invasion of emperor crab has achieved such a brilliant success is due to several key factors that mutually reinforce each other. Formed a perfect invasion storm. Ecological niche gap. The Barents Sea originally lacked this large, mobile, and widely feeding top benthic predator. The arrival of the king crab has precisely filled a key, blank ecological niche. Almost no effective ecological resistance has been encountered. Powerful reproductive and dispersal ability. A healthy female crab can carry tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of eggs at once. Its larvae can spread to distant places with ocean currents during the planktonic stage. Provided a continuous source of soldiers for the population to expand their territory. Lack of top predators. In new environments, adult king crabs rely on their hard shells and huge body size. Almost at the top of the food chain. Only a few large benthic fish or octopuses can prey on their juveniles. But there is almost no way to deal with adults, forming a situation where juveniles are at risk, but adults are invincible. Human, indirect assistance. Human activities unintentionally pave the way for invasion. On the one hand, climate change has led to a sustained increase in temperature in Arctic waters. May have created a more favorable thermodynamic window for the reproductive success, larval survival, and metabolic activity of the king crab. On the other hand, the region has long been overfished by local top predators such as Atlantic cod. Indirectly cleared the main potential ecological obstacles for the expansion of the king crab. Just as the population of king crabs quietly expands in their new home and builds their underwater empire. A brand new and lucrative industry is rapidly emerging within the Arctic Circle. However, the cost of obtaining this red gold is the thrilling game that fishermen engage in with the Grim Reaper every time they set sail. Emperor crab fishing is consistently listed as one of the most dangerous occupations in the world by the International Labour Organization and non-governmental organizations. Its casualty and accident rates are even much higher than those of the notoriously arduous Bering Sea snow crab fishing. The fishing season is deliberately scheduled during the worst months of winter, when the Arctic Circle is almost plunged into eternal darkness. Fishing operations are carried out in such extreme environments. The test of extreme weather, fishermen need to face the killer wind that easily exceeds 100 kilometers per hour. Huge waves with a height exceeding 10 meters, resembling moving mountains. And extremely cold temperatures of -20 to 30 degrees Celsius, enough to instantly freeze exposed skin. Deadly hull icing, roaring waves constantly splash cold seawater onto the hull and towering masts. Seawater will condense into a thick and constantly growing ice shell upon contact with an object. This additional weight will significantly raise the center of gravity of the vessel, leading to a sharp decrease in stability and the risk of capsizing at any time. The deck itself has become like an ice rink, where one careless step could slip and fall into the roaring black ocean. Short survival window. Once unfortunately submerged in water, the human body will experience a severe, cold shock reaction in seawater close to freezing point. Subsequently, within a few minutes, losing consciousness and ability due to a rapid decrease in core body temperature, hypothermia. The survival window is extremely short, and the hope of rescue is often slim. Even if successful in combating the weather, the fishing process itself is like a highly intense battle. Dance of heavy machinery. Fishermen use giant crab traps made of high-strength steel weighing over 500 kilograms. Each cage can hold dozens of ferocious giant crabs. By using deafening hydraulic winches, these behemoths were sunk into the dark and turbulent seabed hundreds of meters deep. Wait for several hours and then recover under the wind and waves. The entire process is filled with significant physical risks. The killing intent of steel and ropes, on a violently bumpy, slippery, and icy deck. Operating these powerful machines is extremely dangerous. A steel cable that breaks due to wear, excessive load, or sudden force. Its rebound force is enough to cut off a person's waist or fly them into the sea like a toy. A heavy crab cage that slides uncontrollably while swaying can easily crush a worker's leg bones or ribs. Extreme fatigue and psychological pressure. The brief fishing season and extremely high crab prices mean that crew members must race against time. Usually working continuously for 18 to 20 hours or more, under extreme fatigue, cold, and sustained high levels of mental stress. Human judgment, reaction speed, and coordination will significantly decrease. This further exponentially increases the probability of accidents occurring. According to official data released by the Norwegian and Russian maritime authorities, the casualty rate in the king crab fishing industry has remained consistently high for a long time. Almost every fishing season there are reports of serious casualties. Therefore, every safe return journey, every emperor crab that is ultimately brought ashore. Behind it lies the sweat, courage, and even the cost of life of sailors. The true value of this luxurious delicacy in the deep sea cannot be fully measured by the prices on restaurant menus. It is priced by both human risk and life. Despite the perilous nature of the fishing process, the enormous economic benefits brought by the king crab. Like a powerful magnet, it attracts a continuous influx of capital, technology, and manpower into the Arctic region, reshaping the local socio-economic landscape. Economic revolution in coastal communities, from the edge to the center. In port cities in northern Norway such as Kirkenes and Honningsvåg, as well as Murmansk on the Kola Peninsula in Russia. The king crab industry has completely changed the fate of many remote fishing villages in just a decade or two. Staged a modern version of the gold rush. A skilled and experienced captain or crew member during a successful crab fishing season. You can earn up to tens of thousands or even $200,000 in income. This is much higher than the income from traditional cod, herring fishing, or other land-based occupations. Capable of changing the economic situation of the entire family. With the rapid accumulation of wealth, ports that were once silent due to population outflow are now filled with brand new and well-equipped modern professional fishing boats. On the shore, new houses, modern crab processing plants, cold chain logistics facilities, and supporting commercial services have sprung up like mushrooms after rain. Emperor crab has become a tangible ticket to a new life. It not only prevents the trend of population outflow caused by the decline of traditional fisheries. Instead, it has injected new vitality, young workforce, and development confidence into these Arctic frontier communities. For Norway and Russia, two Arctic countries, the export of king crabs has grown from a novel business to an important industry worth billions of dollars. From high fishing license fees, export tariffs, to various stages of processing, packaging, transportation, and re-export. The entire industrial chain has brought huge tax and foreign exchange revenues to the national finance, enhancing its voice in the Arctic economy. The high-end sushi bar in Ginza, Tokyo, the top steakhouse in Manhattan, New York, the Michelin three-star restaurant on the left bank of Paris, or the buffet in the luxury hotel near the Bund, Shanghai. Emperor crab legs, as an undeniable star ingredient, are carefully cooked by chefs in various ways such as steaming, grilling, sashimi, soup, etc. Then presented in a highly ceremonial way in front of the diners. Its plump and robust flesh, fresh, sweet and mellow taste, and visually striking huge body shape make it a symbol of luxury experience, natural gifts, and taste. The efficient global cold chain logistics network ensures these delicacies from the deep sea of the Arctic. Within just a few days after being caught on board, it can be transported in the best fresh condition from ports in Norway or Russia. Express fresh food markets to major cities around the world via air freight. This global and continuously growing demand for delicious food. It is the ultimate engine driving the thriving development of the entire Arctic king crab industry from fishing to sales. It also enables any proposal aimed at protecting the ecology by controlling or even reducing fishing. Faced with strong economic interests, they all appear to face numerous obstacles and difficulties. Faced with the enormous economic temptation and severe and long-term ecological threat brought by the king crab, managers, scientists, fishermen, and environmentalists are all caught up in a complex and difficult multi-party game. The existing solutions, although seemingly reasonable, are actually accompanied by profound ethical dilemmas and practical challenges. At present, the core management strategy adopted by Arctic coastal countries such as Norway and Russia is to replace prevention with capture. By encouraging, regulating, and expanding large-scale commercial fishing activities. To achieve the dual purpose of controlling and reducing the population of king crabs in the wild. Superficial logic and illusion of win-win, this appears to be a classic win-win strategy. It can transform harmful invasive species into valuable economic resources and generate huge profits for the country and individuals. It can also leverage the power of the market to suppress its population growth through fishing pressure, thereby reducing its impact on the ecosystem. The government sets the annual total allowable catch, strictly regulates the short fishing season and minimum allowable catch size, and issues limited fishing licenses, attempting to implement refined management in this industry. However, an increasing number of scientists have pointed out that the current fishing intensity and targets may not be sufficient to truly curb the continuous expansion of the population. Driven by economic interests, fishermen almost exclusively focus on catching the largest, highest meat percentage, and most valuable male adult crabs. However, little attention has been paid to the larger numbers of female and juvenile crabs that determine the future size of the population. This decapitation style of fishing may lead to a younger age structure of the population. Even stimulating an increase in replenishment, the total biomass and pressure on the ecosystem have not been fundamentally alleviated. The dilemma of the king crab is essentially a sharp microcosm of the relationship between humans and nature in the era of globalization. It forces us to go beyond simple technical and managerial levels and think about a series of deeper philosophical and ethical issues. Do we humans have a desire for short-term economic benefits and pleasure, and the right to arbitrarily and irreversibly alter an ancient ecosystem that has undergone millions of years of evolution? Between the irreplaceable health value of ecosystems and the quantifiable economic well-being of humans, what principles should we use to demarcate that reasonable boundary? The so-called sustainable utilization of invasive species is a practical and wise adaptive management strategy that faces reality. Or is it a self-deceiving ecological compromise driven by economic interests? Different stakeholders, based on their positions and values, have provided vastly different answers. Fishermen and coastal communities tend to view the king crab as a gift from nature and an opportunity of the times. Scientists and environmental organizations place greater emphasis on early warning principles and the intrinsic value of ecosystems. Government administrators are caught in the middle, attempting to balance competing goals such as economic growth, social stability, employment pressure, and long-term environmental security. The story of the emperor crab begins with a reckless human intervention in the natural order based on good wishes but lacking foresight, ultimately evolving into a grand narrative concerning global trade, regional wealth, human courage, ecological ethics, and the future of the planet. It's like a clear and cold mirror, reflecting humanity's arrogance, wisdom, greed, helplessness, and hesitation in the face of complex natural forces. From the ancient homeland of the North Pacific to a new invasion site in the Barents Sea. From the hellish fishing boat decks of the Arctic to the world's top luxury feast tables. From the coastal communities that regained prosperity because of it to the underwater desert that fell into silence because of it. The journey of the emperor crab paints a complex picture intertwined with hope and despair, creation and destruction. It is the red gold beneath the icy sea, bringing immense wealth and ultimate delicious experiences to humanity. It is also a sharp double-edged sword, behind its shining economic value. Hidden is a profound and potentially permanent ecological threat to the Arctic, one of the last pristine lands on Earth. Can humans truly master this double-edged sword that they have personally released? Can we greedily absorb the billions of dollars in economic benefits it brings while? Can it effectively curb its ecological destructive power and protect the fragile and unique ecosystem service functions of the Arctic? The answer to this question still lingers in the icy sea fog and ever-changing auroras of the Arctic. Becoming an unresolved global puzzle that tests humanity's collective wisdom, moral courage, and long-term vision. The invasion and control of the king crab is an ongoing and large-scale global ecological experiment. The ultimate outcome will deeply depend on every choice we make today. And its story is undoubtedly a heavy and clear warning to future generations. Before attempting to improve, optimize, or utilize nature, we must have sufficient reverence and humility. Devote sufficient patience and resources. Strive to understand and respect its inherent, immensely complex, interrelated, and often fragile operating principles. Because every reckless move can trigger a global chain reaction that we can never fully control.